What is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to another episode of Nuggets Today, brought to you by Underdog. If you guys did not know, we're officially sponsored by Underdog. Scan this QR code right here, download the app today, and we will have a promo code out for you guys in a little while. So there are a couple things I want to get to the day after the Nuggets off day. The first thing being the fact that March Madness is going on. A couple days ago, St. John's plays, and they actually dominate. They played Kansas. Darren Peterson projected top three, but potentially top one pick, and they end up winning. Dylan Darling calls game, right? The one guy that I would love on St. John's this upcoming draft. I'm not really thinking much about the draft, but March Madness gets me going and gets me thinking about potential players that the Denver Nuggets, my dog's playing their toy, the Denver Nuggets should pick up. And the first name that comes to mind in the second round, I believe the Nuggets have a pick from the Hunter Tyson trade, Zuby Ejiofor. Now, it sounds so weird. The Isaiah Stewart comparisons to me are so intriguing. I mean, you look at this guy's build, what he does. He averages 16.3 points, 7.3 rebounds, 3.5 assists over the course of this past year for St. John's. I know he's a senior. Everybody gets nervous about his age. But then you look at the defensive stats and what he's able to do. He averaged 2.5 blocks, 1.5 steals. I know that he's not going to do that in the NBA just because the talent's bigger, more competitive. Then you look at his frame, his age, 6'9", 240. And I know that I guess you could say a little bit on the older side. He is a senior, so I believe he's going to be 22 or 23, 22, 23 around there coming out of college. So people get a little skeptical about that. But in the second round, I would not mind him. I think he'd be awesome. He was the 2025, I believe, Big East Player of the Year, two-time All-Big East, two-time All-Big East Tournament. The awards are endless for him. I think that he could be a massive guy to back up our center unit next year. I don't know what's going to happen with Jonas Valanciunas in the contract. I believe he's on a non-fully guaranteed deal this upcoming year for the Denver Nuggets. So somebody who is just aggressive, it doesn't cost much, is able to be a bruiser down low. And then I also think about if you're able to, I guess, develop Deron Holmes in the right way. Then you have Deron Holmes and Zuby Ejiofor, two 6'9" to 6'10" guys. One being an aggressor down low, he can shoot the ball a little bit, and Deron Holmes being able to extend the floor. And if he's able to just get in the weight room and be aggressive, two guys down low who could really just dominate that paint. Now, obviously, we're talking about two guys around the 6'9" to 6'10" height. David Adelman is going to be running small ball. Right, and it just seems like that's going to be the sort of tail of the tape right there for the Denver Nuggets going into this playoff run. I got at this a little bit yesterday. I don't mind it as much. Something about the wings. I like playing a four-wing set. I do. I loved how the Celtics ran their rotation. I know that technically they weren't all wings when they won the finals, but Al Horford's a little bit of a smaller center, able to play the 3-and-D role for the Boston Celtics at that time. But you had Tatum, you had Derek White, you had Drew Holiday, you had Jaylen Brown all starting together when they're all a little bit of those mid-sized bodies, and that's what Denver is trying to do right now with the bench unit of Bruce, Tim, Payne Watson, Spencer Jones staying with Nikola Jokic out there, or even having Jamal or Cam or AG in that lineup with them as well. Like I said, I don't mind it if Denver is able to run teams off the floor. If they can't, then Denver's in a bad position because then again, you go against a conference with massive center talent when it comes to backups. Jalen Williams, Luke Cornett, Naz Reid, amazing backup centers. They're amazing backup centers. And Denver's sort of, going in there head on without a backup center. So I am not going to sit here and diss it until I see it against a team like the Spurs or I see it against a team like the Warriors. The only team that I don't mind, the Rockets, because if you're able to expand the floor when Clint Capella comes out and you have to force him to go play at the three-point line, I think that's better for the Denver Nuggets than it is playing a guy like Jonas Valanciunas who's going to have to play in the post. And you could sort of leave Capella on defense a little bit. You have to watch out for the lobs, but if you have Peyton Watson, like I said, AG or even Spence down there who are lengthier bodies and they can watch it, they're athletic enough to, prevent the lobs, and I'm completely fine with that being the case. Now, before I continue on with this episode, I do want to give you guys a quick word from our sponsor. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing an Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. That's right, 5,000 times your cash. Obviously, this episode's pre-recorded, so I did want to look at one game yesterday, and that one game ends up being the team that Denver just saw, the Portland Trailblazers against the Brooklyn Nets, who are sort of just deteriorated. They're they're done. There's nothing left of that Brooklyn Nets team. There, every single player on that team is just falling apart. But I did want to see Donovan Clingan dominate against a team that's potentially lacking a center, and I'm going to look at his points, rebounds, assists. The projection's 31.5. I'm taking the higher. Then Drew Holiday at the 15.5 point mark. I'm going to take the higher on that as well, just because I think that the Trailblazers sort of put up a fight against Denver for a little while, and now they are taking on a bottom tier team in the Eastern Conference. Download the app today and use promo code BASKETBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BASKETBALLFAN. Underdog. Make picks, win money.
18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado, some 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 hotline at 1-878 or text COMMOD 467-369.
All right, I think I need to apologize to Cam Johnson here. I was a little tough on him, and there's reasons. I think being a Denver Nuggets fan, you sort of have to understand that not everybody's going to live up to the potential that Michael Porter Jr. once played with, and it gets tough because you look at who they traded, what they traded for Cam Johnson, and they end up trading a first-round pick, and that's, I think, where it got me. And Cam was struggling. Obviously, he had the injuries and all that situation, but in his last 7 games, he's putting up 16.1 points, 3.1 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1.1 steals, shooting 56.8% from the three-point line, 61.2% from two, and then 80% from the free throw line, and he's also plus 88. Now, when it comes down to the narrative that was sort of pushed on Cam Johnson, like I said, I do apologize just because it gets frustrating. It does. It gets frustrating when you look at the guy that they trade is a guy who won a championship on this team. He's a guy who was sort of beloved and hated at the same time in the community, a guy that I loved, one of my favorite players for the Denver Nuggets in recent history, and Michael Porter Jr., and his game was just so different because he was never scared to shoot. And I think that's what I always got at when it came down to MPJ. But like I continue to say, Cam Johnson is not backing down now from taking any shot. And that is what is massive for this Denver Nuggets team, because that's what's leading to Denver winning games or being in contention even when players were injured. So shout out to Cam for really picking it back up, especially at the end of the season when teams can't really monitor how Denver's going to play because they don't know how Denver's roster plays when it's fully healthy with Cam Johnson. We haven't seen it much. The tape is very limited, so that is huge for the Denver Nuggets. Now, before I end this episode, talking about the Phoenix Suns a little bit, Denver takes them on late game for Denver over at Phoenix. The Phoenix Suns are sitting at they're sitting pretty at 7 right now in the standings in the Western Conference. A team that, if you go back and watch, I actually said I was pretty high on them. The only reason I had them lower in my power rankings was just because I thought other teams would be better and some teams weren't. The Nuggets are sitting at 5, currently tied with the Timberwolves at 44-28. The Timberwolves are currently at 6 in the seeding. The Suns sit at 7, Clippers sit at 8, Trailblazers and Warriors at 9 and 10. But this is a big game for the Denver Nuggets because the Houston Rockets are 1 game better than them. So if they're able to win this game, they then jump to 4 if the Rockets end up losing, which could be huge for seeding. Again, they're sitting at 5 right now, tied with the Timberwolves. So you're sort of leaning on the Rockets to lose, the Timberwolves to lose, and the Nuggets to win. But I think the Nuggets should be able to get it out. The tough thing is with guys like Dylan Brooks, I believe, is still out, but Colin Gillespie is a guy that we get to see again. But they're a tougher team. If Royce O'Neal plays, if their defense is on point with Kaman Maluach and Mark Williams, if he does play, I believe right now he's listed as out with a foot injury, so I don't know if he's gonna play. But Kaman Maluach, Oso Ighodaro might be hard to guard for this Denver Nuggets team. So keep an eye over on Oso Ighodaro. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. Like I always say, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below if you guys want me to cover anything. Huge shout out to Underdog for sponsoring this episode. I'll catch you guys later.